What is up? Coach Emma here, and welcome back to the Fit Habit Life podcast, where we cut through the noise, talk real health and fitness, sustainable fat loss, and habits that actually work. And on today's episode, I've got a super special guest, Jenz Bunnell, and this is going to be a little bit of a different topic than I normally talk about because I'm not the expert in this, so I'll be asking Jenz a bunch of questions, but we're going to talk more about mindset today and psychology and how that impacts just your day-to-day, your quality of life. It's so important. So I wanted to bring him on. He's an expert in this. He's the founder of Momentum. They do corporate psychology, but also they have men's groups to help men specifically with their mental health. So I just wanted to bring him on, tell his story. So welcome. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Emma. It's great to be on with you, and excited to dive into some really meaningful topics today.
Yeah, I think it's super important. So before we kind of jump into the topic specifically, I wanted you to share your story because that is how you got into your field, and I think it's really important, and it highlights the importance of this.
Yeah.
So would you be open to sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can start with I guess kind of like the meat of the story starts. I got my undergrad in business, and I was playing football at a university down in southern Utah, and met my wife through a buddy that I played football down there with, and he married a girl, and then she set me up with her sister, which is now my wife, and so my buddy's my brother-in-law now, but got my undergrad there in business, and then left to Goldman Sachs. I was brought in at Goldman Sachs in downtown Salt Lake. Worked there for a while. My wife actually asked me a question that sparked a thought, and it caused me essentially to take a leap of faith, leave Goldman after 2 years. I thought I was going to be there, had landed in my dream firm and was going to be there for my whole career, and had this dream to be a public speaker. And so left Goldman and got a 40-hour week sales job instead of a 50 to 80-hour week corporate job, and started building a speaking platform, and was doing pretty good. And then my higher power, I call God, just pretty much came down and was like, all right, dude, it's time to go to work on yourself. And the weight of an addiction that I was hiding hit me pretty heavy. And so I came clean to my wife about that, and it was difficult. It was the hardest thing that I'd ever done, to be that vulnerable and open and come clean with things that I was hiding. And so we were separated for a better part of that year, and just to went to work on myself. So we're diving in pretty deep, pretty heavy, quick today, Emma, but that's kind of what kicked it off. I went to work on myself: addiction recovery, trauma recovery, group therapy, personal marriage group counseling, all of it. And it slowly started to evolve the trajectory of my life, really. And it's one of those things that I say this quite a bit, that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy to go through. And it's something I wouldn't change for the world. And as hard it was for my wife too, I think she would probably say the same. Because it's opened up this whole new world of growth and healing and understanding, and really a career. And so went through that process. I ended up starting to work through that process. I realized, there's more that I can do than just go speak on a stage. There's actual tools and skills that can be taught that have changed my life now that I can maybe help others with. And so I started working with student athletes on the mental and emotional performance side. That took me to the University of Tennessee. I had the opportunity to work with student athletes there, and that's kind of what drew me out, was a program that they had where you could work with athletes, and while I was getting my MBA. So I got my master's in business while working out with student athletes out there on the mental and emotional side. And then transitioned from working with student athletes into the business and corporate world. That was always my goal, was to kind of bring the psychology into the corporation side. And so I dove into that, found a niche within the business world to start to build out kind of a corporate psychology company. And we've kind of really dug deep in that niche, and it's been almost 6 years now that we've built that. So we contract with organizations and provide them with performance psychologists and coaches and therapists that help them get the most out of their mind and their heart and navigate personal life and achieve what they want to professionally. And so it's been really fulfilling. And then about 3 years ago, we started working on our opening up our men's psychology side, which we have a men's program. It's a 3-month program. We run 4 of them a year. It's really special, called Momentous Man. And then we have a ongoing men's community where we hop on a call and men from all over the country get on and just go to work on ourselves. And that was a huge piece of my story. That's what I was plugged into in my rock bottom, was a group of men that really I didn't understand. Like, logically, I knew I wasn't alone. But I didn't internalize that until I walked into a group of men that I began to love and respect and had done similar things. And so it gave me a lot of hope. And so I guess to cap off the story, I'm about 6 to 9 months away from a PhD in psychology, and I'll finish that up and I'll be done for school. I'm so over school. But that'll
I understand.
Yeah, that'll cap it off. But that's kind of the background and the story and where we're at today. And it's been an awesome, hard, and beautiful journey for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's not worth doing if it's not challenging. I think you don't. I guess the final end goal is not as satisfying if you didn't have to work super hard to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the challenges that we're placed through are for a reason, like you were saying. And that's what makes you so good at what you do, is because you've been there. So you know how to help people through that.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And that's cool that you're almost done with your PhD. I can't even fathom how much work that could be.
Yeah, we're getting there. It's been a 3-year journey, so it'd be so nice to not have school.
Are you doing it virtually, or is it like partially in person and stuff too?
Yeah, no, it's all online. I did my master's in person, and about midway through the MBA, the corporate psychology side of the business really started to take off, and I missed so much. Like, I'm so thankful for classmates and all that, because they made it possible for me to even graduate and the university working with me. And so getting my PhD, I knew that it had to be kind of all online.
That makes sense. Yeah, it is a lot easier to manage when you can do it from home and part-time within all the other stuff that you have going on.
Yeah, exactly. So
what made you want to go into public speaking in the first place, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always loved it. Like, if I was ever asked to speak in front of a group, I never was like, oh, like, I'm so nervous. It was always like an excited feeling until like 5 minutes before, and you're like, oh shoot, like, I'm actually doing this. But it was always this exciting feeling, and it really like made me come alive. And I was like a semester away from finishing my undergrad, and I hadn't met my wife yet. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I just was kind of like in a really like limbo place, and I had a mentor at the time, and he just said, like, if you could choose anything to wake up in the morning to be stoked about every morning, what would you do? And initially, like, my mind went to different kind of careers and, like finance. That's why I went the Goldman Sachs route, because I was thinking of finance. But really what I realized is, trying to get to the root of it, was what really like made me so fulfilled was being able to provide some sort of perspective. I wouldn't necessarily say advice, but some sort of perspective or thought or idea to somebody. See them take that thought and idea and then go have success from it or have benefit from it was so fulfilling. And so you combine that idea with already kind of recognizing the idea of like loving the public speak. And then when my wife asked me, she's like, if you could do anything, this was the question that kind of got my wheels turning. She asked me, if you could do anything in this world, what would you want to do? And initially I said, well, I'd love to play in the NFL, but that's not going to happen. That died in my D2 collegiate career.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I was like, more realistically, kind of like, I would love to be a public speaker. And that was like the first time I voiced it. And then I realized like, man, I'm working so hard at Goldman. I'm working so many hours. I'm stressed out. Why not go work super hard to be stressed out at something I love? And so that's kind of really what got me into that space.
That's awesome. I think our paths are actually kind of similar. I was a software engineer and I was working very hard at that. And I'm like, I don't really like this. I'm not very passionate about it. And then got into the coaching space. And I'm working more than I did before, but I enjoy every moment of it.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh shoot, I lost my question. But oh yeah, so I was like, so how did you end up getting in a position to coach athletes on the mindset side of things and like mental and emotional health? Because I think oftentimes that is like the biggest piece missing. Like when I was in college and playing sports, that would have really helped me level up and perform to my peak ability.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at universities and I applied to a few different universities for my master's, for my MBA, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it came about, but I came across somebody on LinkedIn that was going to the University of Tennessee, and I had 4 universities that I was looking at, and Tennessee was the 4th. And the only reason I was looking at Tennessee is I had randomly a Tennessee hoodie when I was 7th grade, and I loved the white and orange. And I had a brother-in-law who lived out there, didn't go to University of Tennessee, but a different university by there for his PA school. And so I was familiar with the area. They loved it, and we went out and visited and loved that area. Anyway, that was the only reason why. But then I came across a current student there at that time that had posted about this program that he was in helping athletes. And so I inquired about it, I applied to it, and was brought on to that, and then got into the university too. And so it was I think it was a little divine intervention that I came across that. And they had that program already. And it was mainly for freshman and sophomore athletes, and it was mainly for them to like stay on track of like the transition to being a collegiate athlete and stay on track with like schoolwork and everything like that. But then there's also kind of that element of like life, and then bringing in my skills of the mental and emotional side, and that's what it really developed into while I was with that program. So
that's awesome. And that probably helped you as you were transitioning to your own like corporate side of things, right?
Yeah, it gave me some great experience, and really like the first time that I was able to at scale work with a lot of people, and so yeah, it was a great experience.
That's awesome. I'm sure like those kids that you helped will remember you forever.
I hope so. I'd still follow a few of them, and it's cool to see them now. It's been a few years, and so now a lot of them are graduated and, either on to semi-pro or pro stuff, or just, out living life now. So
that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So what made you go into the corporate sector?
I've always had a love for business and especially entrepreneurship. It's always fascinating and really intriguing to me. So I saw a lot of it at Goldman too, where there's such a need for the mental and emotional side. Anybody that's worked at a firm that's as large as that is and is demanding, knows that like it's hard not to lose your soul and just be kind of like a shell of a person. And so that was a huge part of it. And then just the love for like entrepreneurship and business and I think like having the impact, if you kind of hit the two main areas of somebody's life, like two of the main areas, right? Like their own mental well-being. That impacts everything. And then if you can help them be successful in their career, that provides fulfillment, food on the table, growth, like, all of that. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And then it also impacts the clients that they're helping too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a threefold.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. What is your favorite like client success story or client that you've been able to impact the most?
I'd say like on an organizational level, it's really cool to come in and see a whole culture change with an organization. And to see an organization that I knew coming into organizations that it would help, because we work a lot with sales organizations. And so I knew that performance would increase when people would, get into a good mental, consistently be in a good mental space. I would say the biggest like surprise, I guess, or thing I wasn't expecting is retention. And seeing like where there's cultures of like high turnover, or a lot of like miscommunication or leadership issues, to see that shift is really cool. So I'd say from a organizational standpoint, seeing just cultures just completely shift, and be a place that people want to work at and they retain their employees. From individuals, I mentioned the sales side. Like we have individuals that we're struggling with, sales. One of my favorites is there's this guy, he's a 1099 sales rep, just like a contracted sales rep, and he was in a pretty tough place in life personally, and he had like negative $20K in his bank account.
Oh man.
8 months later, he had multiple six figures in his bank account after meeting with and doing our program and plugging in, and it just completely shifted the way that he was able to show up at work and in his life. And he was in an industry where you can make a decent amount of money really, really quick. And so it was really cool to see from like the beginning of the year to the end of the year, negative 20,000 to plus 250,000. It just really, really cool. Like, and that obviously like the money's not everything. But the reason why that was possible is because he leaned into his mental side and was able to really get clear with that. And so it was cool.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah. So what did you do with the corporation and then with that individual to help them get to that level? Like with the company culture, what shifts did you help them make and how did you do that?
Yeah. A lot of it is being in a really, really tactful and careful way, bringing in the understanding of that we're all human. We all have things that are coming. Like when we show up to work, that is like the 100th thing that we're dealing with usually. And that even goes for like, we're bringing in stuff from our childhood that's coming up at work. And so everything from past, present, and then future, like fear of the future, desire to be successful in the future, all of that is playing a role right now. And so being able to help organizations and leaders understand that and provide tools and skills around, okay, how do I process the past, understand and be aware of the present, and surrender the future as an organization as a whole? And then as an individual, it just brings, there's understanding, that communication is better. People are showing up with more fulfillment, and it comes to a few tools, and especially like just providing the correct vocabulary for people that, you know, hey, like I'm showing up and I'm here today and I'm going to give it my all, and that's going to be my 100%. Right. And it's very similar to the relationship too, right? It's understanding, having the awareness of where I'm at, and as a whole, as an organization. So I would say that kind of that main thing, the past, present, future, understanding the role that all three of those play, like right now, is huge for company culture and individual well-being.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I've noticed, like, in my own personal life, like some of the insecurities or things that I have, it's because of stuff that happened in the past that I didn't really realize or connect the dots to. And so it helps me be more aware of the certain behaviors that I have, and then helps me like step back and maybe not take those actions.
Yeah.
Or helps me better explain, like, to my husband, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I got mad at you. This is why, and I'm going to keep working on it. And I don't mean to react that way.
Yeah.
And I don't want to in the future be that way. So here's what I'm going to do. So that makes sense for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty fascinating. I mean, you start to get on the subconscious level and talk about our nervous system, even our nervous system. One of my favorite things, and I train on this a lot, is how the nervous system doesn't know time. I learned that concept, you know, during my rock bottom, and it just changed the way that I viewed myself in the world. The nervous system not knowing time, meaning like if you've ever smelt a smell, thought a thought, watched a show, tasted something, heard a song, and it takes you back into like that nostalgic moment. That's the nervous system not knowing time. That's the same thing as like PTSD. Somebody that comes home from a tour, from wherever, they hear a firecracker, their nervous system today acts as if it was something in the past. And so we have that nervous system reaction is so strong with all of us, and we just don't always remember it. Like, speaking of PTSD, my favorite example was this soldier that was driving on the main freeway in Utah, going about 80 miles per hour, and a brown paper bag rolls out in front of his car. So without even thinking, what does he do? He grabs the wheel, turns, swerves out of the way, hits the car next to them, and they roll. Luckily, everybody survived. To us, that's just a brown paper bag. We just keep driving through. To him, it's a roadside bomb. IED. And so I often, speaking to organizations or conferences, I'll often pose the question, like, what kind of brown paper bags do you have? Like, what brown paper bags are coming up in your life that's causing you to have this big reaction that sometimes I can't make sense of it myself, let alone somebody else trying to make sense of it. Yet if we were to understand the layers deep, it would make total sense. So if I can get to those layers deep, figure it out, process it, retrain my nervous system to act and react in the proper way with compassion and grace and love and all of that and understanding, then next time the brown paper bag comes up, I drive right on through. Crisis averted. So I think it's so huge, like that understanding that like we're operating on such a subconscious level, yet we think that we're in control and of our thoughts and everything, and 95% of what we do feel and think is subconscious.
Yes, yeah, that's something I kind of talk about with clients too, not that same degree or level, but like if you're overweight, right, you got there because of the habits and behaviors that you have, and now we have to focus on identifying which ones aren't serving you and why you're continuing to have those behaviors, and how we can kind of put roadblocks in the way to making new behaviors a little bit easier.
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you do, or what have you done to help clients identify, like, what are the roadblocks? Why are they seeing the brown paper bag as something else?
Yeah. Well, we just ask them about like daddy issues and mommy issues and no, I mean maybe sometimes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's just a lot of, the asking the right questions, and for that person to be introspective with why they feel they do what they do, and pinpointing specific experiences in their life that are coming up for them. Like, why are hot core topics? Why, when I go to a spouse, a parent, a sibling, a coworker, a boss, whatever, and have a conversation, why do I have a emotional reaction to it? And then connecting the dots, because everything's connected. Everything's connected. And a lot of times we either conscientiously or subconsciously push down our emotion, or push down the root of what's going on, and we run from it. Eventually it gets loud. It's a principle called amplification. The more you suppress something, the louder it gets with our psychology. And so we have to begin to listen and really ask, like, what is it that's coming up for me? I think an element of that is as huge as understanding that our body at any time is trying to help us. Even if we're in a panic attack, the body's thinking it's doing something to protect us. Even if we're experiencing severe depression, it thinks it's helping us. It's like an autoimmune disease, right? It thinks it's doing the right thing, but it's doing the opposite. And so if I can start to work with my psychology instead of calling it a you-know-what and I got to get through this and put my head down and all that kind of stuff, like it's really a really big form of self-betrayal. And if I can get my nervous system to trust me, instead of me having to rely on my nervous system to tell me what's safe or not, that's a whole shift that can help so much. It reminds me, it's very similar probably to what you encounter a lot. Like, I believe beauty culture, especially diet culture, really tries to infuse in us this idea that we can't trust our bodies, that I need to trust some sort of guru, diet, like all of that, in order to like know what my body needs, or right, like, and there's nuance to it, right? But it starts from like really, really young, in the young years of how like we're just not taught to listen to our body and trust our body. And I know people that have certain, like, I wouldn't say diseases, but whether it's a disorder or deficiencies in certain hormone thing where they're like, their hunger hormone doesn't turn off, where like, if I'm listening to my body and I have that, like, I'm going to be in trouble. But like the idea of intuitive eating and trusting your body and all of that, and having goals, and not to say like any diet, like macros or whatever, is bad. It's just also really understanding the psychology of like trusting my body and being able to develop trust with that. And if I'm continually setting myself up for failure and self-betraying myself, or not trusting my body and listening to it when it's like, yo, you're hungry. And it's like, no, I need to lose 5 more pounds by next week, so I'm not going to eat. And it's so detrimental, and that self-betrayal. So I think that's a long-winded answer to answer your question as far as like, everything's connected. It's always layers deep. And the more that I listen to and trust and work with my psychology, the more trust I build. And therefore my reactions and actions and all that can trust me that, hey, we're safe, we're okay, versus me having to rely on my actions and emotions and all of that to navigate this world.
Totally makes sense. And yeah, so there is nuance to the intuitive eating, because part of it is in the environment we live in today. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of foods and things hijack our body's natural signals, like hunger and satiety, mm-hmm. and those hormones and stuff. And then people are overly stressed, which affects hunger signaling. And so mm-hmm. if all things equal, yes, listen to your body, pretty solid advice. And that same thing for what you deal with clients. I'm sure it's like in the state that we live in now, people's nervous systems are on high alert all the time.
Totally.
And so it's like trying to reset the body so that you can listen to the body and work with the body, both mentally and like physiologically. That's awesome. Yeah. So it's kind of the same, but on opposite ends.
Yeah.
But they are connected too.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So what did you do to help that client of yours go from negative 20,000 in the bank account to 6+ figures?
Yeah. Yeah. And the cool thing about that is like, I can't take any of the credit, or if, at all. It was one of our coaches that, worked with him, and we just have a system that helps individuals get to a place where they can perform in the way that they want to perform. But a lot of that system is, initially if somebody's struggling in something, say sales, the first thing that they'll usually do is go do sales training, right? Or figure out like the product better, or how to sell somebody, which is great. And in my opinion, and most of the time that's dealing with the smoke. Like, our issues put off smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire. But we generally sit with the smoke, and we punch at smoke all day long, and nothing happens. And then it's really getting to the fire, like the root of what's causing it. And so we have a systematic approach that helps them walk back into, okay, what's the fire? What's going on? We put out the fire, and then usually now, like, all the sales training, all the sales skills, all the things that like are the hard skills that we have in that industry or whatever we're trying to do now can really take hold, because we've kind of, got some clarity on the deeper and foundational level. So that's kind of the process that we take with our clients.
That's awesome. Root cause approach. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. So if someone like is struggling with these things, what would be the first like best step for them to figure out what is the fire? Like, how do I address this fire so that I can get to a better spot mentally?
Yeah, a lot of times I'd ask, like, we think about, we often think from the jaw up, and it's really hard to navigate life as an emotional being, thinking from the jaw up and have fulfillment, connection, all of that. And so if somebody's really struggling, wants to get the fire, I call it like thinking from the jaw down, and really get into, okay, what's coming up for me in my body? What is the sensation I feel? Like, if I'm really struggling and I feel this pit in my stomach, then I figure out that pit in my stomach, and I figure out what it feels like. We even do things like put a color to it, like all sort, like make it real, and have substance. And then we go through a series of just kind of interviewing this and being a really good scientist and asking this thing in our stomach of like, what are you really trying to tell me? What are you really trying to say? What's really coming up for you? And then we listen. And it kind of feels like you're a little bit of a crazy person because you're talking to yourself. But it's something that's so powerful because it helps get to the root issue. Usually my body's trying to help me. And so it knows there's a struggle. It knows there's an issue. It knows it's something going on. It's just not helping me in the right way. And so by understanding what it's really showing up for, allows me to then go and get to the root cause. So if somebody's struggling, it's generally like, hey, what's the emotion that's coming up, and what is it really trying to tell you? What do you need to do off of that, and what does that look like? Right? It might just be simple reassurance. It might need to be you need to go fill your cup. And it might be you need to go have a conversation with somebody. It might be you need to change your career completely and surrender to the future, right? Like it's a lot of times if we're kind of getting logical and trying to navigate it logically, we'll never get to the root cause and the root issue.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And oftentimes, have you heard of the book, The Body Keeps a Score?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read the whole thing, but I get the gist. And it's true, like when I'm in an uncomfortable situation or a situation that reminds me of something back from when I was a kid that where I didn't feel safe, I will have like a tightness in my stomach or like these weird physical feelings, or maybe I get more tension in my neck or shoulder or, something. And it's like, why is that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's true. The body really does keep the score. It really does.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad that there are people out there like you helping people work through these things, because this is not like a common thing, I think. Like, I think this is kind of newer, unless it's just from my perspective, like I haven't heard of a lot of people talking about this. Do you think it's like more of a newer kind of field? Do you think it's becoming more commonplace now, or is it still kind of, I guess, niche? Is that the right word?
Yeah, I would say yes to all of that. Like I think it's obviously been around for a long time. I think it's becoming a little more mainstream, a little more accepted. I think there's a lot of us that are like, oh yes, this is very important. And we see it and we're open to like mental health and all of that. Not a lot of people that act on it. And there's still some stigma to acting on it and all of that, to like, oh, that, yes, like anxiety is a thing or depression is a thing or I felt depressed or whatever. But like the gravity of how much of a focus that it really can, like if we were to focus on it more, it can improve our lives so much. And maybe not quite there. I think there's also an element, unfortunately, of it is such a vulnerable would be the word, not in the sense of like how we think of vulnerability, but people can be really hurt by people that don't know what they're doing in the mental and emotional side and just put on their Instagram bio that they're a life coach or that they work in a certain field, or right, like, not to say that every life coach is bad, every therapist is bad, every kind of, obviously, like, the majority of them are good. It's just also, you can get burned and it's at such a vulnerable level that it can really hurt people. And so I think there's two sides of it. There's people that are leery of that. There's people that have been burned or like it doesn't even help, or, but I do think like there's obviously this new wave of like mental health is a thing. And I think it'll get more and more like that. I think AI is actually going to help that so much because it bridges the gap that people are scared to go talk to somebody, or like, why would I go talk to somebody else that has issues too? That they can get some help. I think it's going to save a lot of lives for people that use ChatGPT as a therapist to navigate some of the struggles and issues they're going through. What I think like will never ever go away is having another individual look you in the eye, hear your deepest, darkest fear, deepest, darkest mistake, like all the things, and love you and accept you. Like AI can't do that, right? To be just like, to have that nuance and that connection obviously will never be replaced. But I do think I think it is, obviously it's ever progressing, and even in the corporate world, right? In the corporate world, it's corporate world still a little bit is very much so behind, and is even more so behind like society as a whole with the mental health stuff. But it's becoming more and more a thing.
That's good. And I kind of agree. I think in general with the advancement of technology, same with like health stuff, like people are now kind of using AI for like training and nutrition, and same thing. Like, yeah, it could give you a plan. It can kind of help you feel good or whatever, but it's not that same like connection or relationship with a person who cares about you, who has your best interest, and you can talk through the hurdles and struggles that you're going through. Which is why, like, I think that Legion, the men's group, the continuing, like, weekly calls is, like, so important, because I think men oftentimes, at least what I've noticed as growing up, like being an adult now with friends that have kids and stuff like that, women oftentimes do a better job of getting together, but men don't do as good of a job at that. And I think it's so important. Like my husband, I'm like, hey, you should hang out with some buddies, like go do something. And he always feels like way better and is in a better mental state after he does that. Even if they're not like necessarily talking about deep stuff, just being with guys that understand you and that are going through similar things and not being around your wives all the time is like so important and helpful.
Yeah, it is. It's women need women and men need men. And men, being in the field with men a lot of times feel guilty because they're already gone so much because of their work, to go and like hang out with a buddy or with friends, or they feel weird about it. And it's not natural for us to put ourselves out there in a social scenario as far as reaching out for help, going to a group of men we don't know. I also believe that's why we're, 4 times more likely to take our lives than women. It's the isolation. It's whether it's fear or the lack of skills to be vulnerable. It's terrifying. It's terrifying to be vulnerable for anybody, for men and women. And so it's huge. It's a huge thing to be able to put yourself in a community and refuse to suffer alone and choose in to some uncomfy stuff. So, you don't eventually choose into detrimental things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what like inspired you to start Legion and Momentous Man? Because I think they're both like really awesome. They kind of tie in together.
Yeah. Kind of like I mentioned, that one of the first things I was plugged into when I was at my rock bottom was a group of men. And it changed everything for me, the way I saw myself, the way that I saw the world. And there's so much power in just having, we limit our Momentous Man groups in our 3-month program to 15 men. And so it's really tight knit, by the end of the 3 months, every single one of those dudes, and they become best friends for the rest of your life. And it's really special what that does, to know that you have somebody that cares about you and has zero bias in your life. They're not a spouse, they're not a childhood friend, they're not a family member, they're not a coworker or a boss. It's just like a true friend. And that alone saves lives. And it did mine. So that's kind of the foundational inspiration of it.
That's awesome. And how long have you been running that? You said you've done 6 of them so far, so it's like a year and a half-ish.
So we've increased the amount that we've done. So our first one was in, let's see, was it 2023 or 2024? And we did 2 our first year, 3 our second, and then 4 this year. So
nice.
So it's going on year 3. So we're like two years in or so, but going on year 3.
That's awesome. That's super cool. So where could people connect with you? Like, what would be the best place to find you if they're interested in joining Legion or doing the next Momentous Man, or even in your corporate part of your business, like to help their company?
Yeah, you can, our website is momentumwe.com, or you can just look me up on Instagram or Facebook, and all the info is there.
Cool. I will add that in the show notes. And then what would you like to leave our audience with today?
2 things I'd say. I guess things that are coming up for me that I'm really focused on is the idea of the concept of surrender and letting go of the thing. That sounds cliche, right? To letting go of the things that we can't control. But there's a whole nother level of like surrendering to the future, and because like all we can do is just try our best and then surrender the rest, And so I'd say that, and then also in the idea of surrendering any fears, worries, judgments, or whatever that comes with asking for help and working on yourself. It is the number one thing that I've seen that'll change somebody's circumstances is when they stop trying to change things externally and they start internally. And once they work on themselves internally, it's amazing to see. It's amazing to see. And it's difficult. It's hard. You go through a lot of strife and anguish and difficulties and navigating traumas and hurts and pains. And you might even lose friendships because you refuse to be in unhealthy relationships anymore. And it'll be the best thing that you ever do.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. I became a Christian a couple years ago, and that I'm type A, high stress, so I try to control everything, and me letting go has helped my anxiety, stress exponentially. My quality of life has increased. I've lost some relationships, but built better ones, and so totally agree. I love that.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I will link all of your contact information in the show notes, and thank you guys for listening. I'll catch you guys on the next one.